that kind of came out of left field, huh? No more bulk. What? I know. I know. Not even at 270. But I do this with reason. I do this with some semblance of reason, which I will explain. Don't worry. So, historically, in all my previous bulking, well, not even attempts, because they did work. I did get bigger and grow muscle. But what has happened in the past for me is anytime I have a really serious weight dip deep into the bulk, trying to rebound out of it, it just never happens for me. Like, after, I'm not sure when it was exactly on the last bulk, like the original bulk little series or whatever. That one, I got up to, I'm not exactly sure. I think it was I don't know. Back then, 250 was like insanely heavy. That was like a really heavy morning. And then what happened was with school and stuff, I just let myself get behind food-wise because I had to deal with all sorts of non-lifting stuff. I know, very unfortunate. So dropped from that 250 down to 240. And then I spent the next few months trying to climb my way back up. And like the best I could do was like 245 or 6, just because I'm not sure if I like got out of the bulking mode, but something about it was just not working for me. So rather than save myself the turmoil of not really pushing the weight any further, the peak on this bulk was 260 just before the Arnold. And then that was kind of my roadblock there, which knocked me back down to 250-ish. So 5 months in, 260, 10 pounds better than my previous bulk morning weight. I can live with that. So, and then also, this is another thing I'll get into, but give me 1 second. So another thing too, which isn't really setting me up for success in trying to keep the bulk going, is the semester's coming to a close. I got a lot of freaking schoolwork to do, unfortunately. So that's the more shit you have to do in your day, it does make it more difficult to chow down on 5,000 calories, just because that's kind of a large fucking time draw. It's not like I can just well, I guess I could, but I don't think it would be in my best interest to drink 5 1,000 calorie shakes per day. Like, look, I eat a lot of weird food, but I think that would probably destroy my insides. So, 5,000 calories of real food, that takes some time to sit down and eat. And it's going to be tricky for me to balance that. So not only historically, coming back from a rebound, it hasn't been in the cards for me, but I'm also about to be a touch extra busy schedule-wise. So I think these next 2 months, I'll be better off just getting back to baseline, appetite-wise, leanness-wise, and then bust out a summer bulk like a goddamn freight train. So I'm already excited about getting nice and lean. But that's something to consider. For the most part, most people, I think, lifter-wise, of course, are in 2 states right now. They're either, well, actually, 1 state, but they're thinking, okay, should I bulk or should I cut? Should I bulk up or should I cut down? Well, I don't know. Summer's about to start. It's going to be summertime in a few months. Maybe I should start to diet down. Well, I just hit a 275-pound bench. I don't want to lose my strength by dieting. I don't really like dieting. It kind of makes, I don't like being hungry. There's a lot of hemming and hawing And the same thing for bulking too. It's not just dieting down. Oh crap, dude! Summertime's about to start, man. I just got I just got both bicep veins. Which little anecdote. That's a moment we all remember. But well, I just got both my bicep veins, man. I can't start bulking now. They're gonna go away. I've got fucking abs, man. I can't lose those. Are you crazy? Come on. You know, I can't start bulking up now. You know, and it's kind of a constant teetering of whether to, oh, should I bulk up or should I diet down? You know, if you're kind of in an interstitial state where maybe you're rocking, eh, for most people, I think you're probably going to be teetering on what to do if you're maybe eh, high teens body fat percentage, 18%, probably 15 to 20. 15 is kind of lean-ish. And one more thing, another little tangent, but body fat percentages, it's not that accurate, man. And I'm not saying you can't get an accurate reading, but I mean, we just saw, I don't remember who it was. It was like Brian Shaw or something. He got in the water displacement tank. They measured his body fat percentage, and he was like 15% or something. Does Brian Shaw look 15% body fat? You know, it's because it gets very strange. Because someone who's really light and lean, they could be like 6% body fat. And somebody who's you know, maybe my size, but has a little more fat on them, could be like 10%. Because it's all about just the ratio of fat to your overall lean muscle size. So those are just kind of numbers. You're either pretty lean, you're diced, you're a little softer. That's probably a better way to go about it. But usually, I think if you're sitting around kind of maybe the slightly softer side of things, what people would usually kind of say is like 18% body fat, probably 15 to 20-ish. Those are probably the people who are teetering on what to do. And I say just pick one. Just pick one, man. If you've been main gaining for a pretty serious amount of time, I'm talking year, 2 years, which is totally good. Just by lifting weights and getting your protein in and everything else, you will gain muscle without having to do a serious, dedicated bulk. But I do think eventually because this is the nature of main gaining, right? This is what's going to happen. Newbie gains right here, pretty steep. You're getting bigger, and it starts slowing down. Start slowing down, man. Start slowing down. It's a logarithmic type situation. You know, the gains will slow. And I think it's not a bad approach to main gain for a while. There's no point in getting fat if you're still building muscle. And then once you kind of reach a point of main plateauedness instead of main gaining, then, you know, maybe try a bulk. You know, maybe try to actually pound some food down, put some more mass on your frame, and then diet down to reveal it. You know, just something to consider. So if that's you and you're not sure which one to do, I think there probably is a right answer. You just have to look at your situation and, you know, analyze it a little bit and decide which one's better for you. You know, because let's say, I mean, for me, like I was saying, I'm about to be really busy outside of the gym. I'm also I've been bulking for a while. I don't think I'm going to put on too much more mass. At least not very easily. Not that it's ever easy. So, for me, dieting down, good move. So what about you, man? It's nearly summertime. You probably do want to be leaner. Not that I think you should always cut for summer or anything like that. But, do you want to be a little bit bigger? That's, because maybe you're thinking, okay, I want to cut down because I want to be lean. I want to see how I look. You know, I want to check my progress. I want to see my striations. I want to see my fucking muscle fibers jumping out at me like a fucking Freddy Fazbear jump scare, you know? But would you be more satisfied if maybe you spent the next few months eating a little bit more food than normal, building some contractile tissue, some muscle underneath a little bit of fat? That's just the nature of it. And then, in maybe 6 months or so, then you're lean and you're a little bit bigger than you were before. That's the approach that makes the most sense to me. That's what really gets me going. Because for me, I prefer bulking just because I know that I'm making real progress. I'm really growing. Like the amount of muscle I have in my body is legitimately increasing when I'm bulking up. So it's worth, maybe getting a little bit softer. But I also know that I can only do that for so long. And in between bulks, what am I just going to sit around at the same body fat percentage? No, man, I want to get a touch leaner. So that's always how maybe not always, but that's how I like it so far. So if that's you, or somebody who's been kind of bouncing around on whether or not they should bulk up or cut down, fuck man. Have them pick one. Have them pick one, because I think a lot of people stay in this little undecided state for a long time. And they never really commit to diet down or bulk up, and they just kind of stay the same size forever. And then fucking years pass. They haven't really made any real gains because they're uncomfortable with the downsides of either state. If you're afraid of putting on a little bit of body fat, then you're probably not going to want to bulk up. And if you're afraid of losing your strength, you're probably not going to want to cut down. It's not like because I know once I start dieting for the next few weeks, I'm going to get weaker. My lifts will be slightly lower number-wise. Now, do you see me crying about it? Am I sitting here like, oh no, I'm not going to be able to curl the 80s anymore? Come on, who cares? I'm still going to get a crazy pump. And if anything, the pump checks are actually going to look way fucking crazier. Because when you're lean, oof, do not underestimate the leanness factor. Right? Like, you can be big, you can be fucking really impressive looking and fill out shirts and stuff. But when the pump covers off, it's just you, the lighting in the mirror, and you got a veiny ass set of arms, and you hit hit anything. Lat spread, double bi, fucking, you can just sit there and make up shit. You're just gonna look cool, So, when I hear that, or when people hear that, like, oh, it's cool to be fucking lean, don't jump the gun, man. Don't jump the gun, because it's not just cool to be lean, right? We've seen, marathon runners. They're fucking lean, but they're not big, So, if that's you, and you want to have a crazy pump, veiny as all hell and everything, with some size to go along with it, then maybe hit a bulk first. 4 months, solid, weight gain on the scale, to the point where you should see I'd say at least a pound a week. If you don't see a pound a week, I'd be a little bit upset with you. Not that you couldn't do half pound a week if you wanted, but a pound a week is pretty reasonable. So hit that, and then diet down, and then see where you're at. But again, I'm not your dad, I'm not your coach. You got to look at your own situation and pick one or the other. So the spring cut has finally begun. Let's just fast forward a few weeks and I should be diced. Because for me, when I bulk up, I do not have a problem getting too big, which is unfortunate. I wish that was my problem. If I could get too big, that would actually probably be good for me. Because then I'd realize, like, oh, okay, I'm big enough. Never-ending battle for size. But, like I said, not too soft. So these pumps should start to get pretty crazy pretty quick. No, I didn't even talk about the lift. That's just shoulders. Got an easy day. Actually, I'll say one more thing. So, now that I'm dieting down, am I still going to skip back? Am I still going to skip shoulders? No. No. Because you got to remember, when you're dieting down, when you're in a deficit, for the most part, for 99% of people, for you to be in a calorie deficit, you will not build muscle. It is not fucking feasible. You have to be in a very special circumstance. Like if you are real fucking heavy, I'm talking like upwards of 40% body fat, or even if you're lighter than that, whatever. If you're a complete beginner, you'll be able to build muscle while in a deficit. If you're an absolute beginner to weights for a period of time, yes, you can recomp. That's legit. But if you've been lifting for a fucking year, actually consistently, that's not you, man. When you bulk up, or when you're eating at least at maintenance and above, that's when you can build muscle. That's when you can put contractile tissue onto your frame. So if you're in a deficit, no muscle is being built. At least none to any notable degree, right? So for me, the point of my training is no longer muscle building. And even in a bulking context, the point of the weight training is just muscle stimulation, right? So now that I'm in a deficit, I'm no longer training my muscles to, induce growth. Right? I'm just training them to maintain the size that I have and the strength that I have and just fucking, stay big. So by that logic, I skip shoulders, and I've been skipping back a little bit when I bulk because I don't really want them to get much bigger. I want everything else to get bigger around them. But now that I'm dieting down, I'm just trying to maintain all the muscle I've got on my frame now. So, me hitting shoulders today in a deficit, they're not going to fucking grow. They're going to stay the same size. And then I'm going to peel off body fat on the outside of me and reveal all the beef underneath. So I'll continue to, get into that as time passes. These, the topics of these car talks should now change a little bit, because I feel like whenever I'm bulking, that's all I talk about. So now that I'm cutting down, anybody who's been interested in some calorie deficit chit chat should finally have their hopes fulfilled. But let's go hit shoulders. This shouldn't take too long either. Reasonably light day. Shoulders isn't too big of a muscle. Not surprisingly, certainly not surprisingly to me, laying face pulls to start, it just fucking works, man. I don't know. Because for the longest time, I haven't really loved face pulls. Because you have to kind of stand up and counterbalance against the weight. So if you just lay down on a bench, you put it right underneath the handle, it's a fucking balance. Your body weight is just holding you down. So it just lets me squeeze my fucking rear delts a lot harder. One little tricky thing with these sets, though, is I can't really go to total failure, because the nature of the fucking face pull, your traps can take over. So what I'm kind of trying to do is just use my rear delts, and then once I can tell that they've been worked, they can't do much more, and my traps are starting to do most of the pulling, then I kind of have to chill, just rack it. So these are they're still good sets, but they're not so brutish as reverse pec to failure, or bent over lateral raises to failure, but still pretty good. This is almost like the concentration curl of rear delts, the light concentration curl, that is. So I think a few here, maybe bounce around to some other machines or something, we'll see. But main tip with these, try not to move your shoulders back and forth, because as I'm doing these face pulls, if I'm sitting here, my shoulders move that much. Any shoulder movement like that, back and forth, that's all back. That's all traps. So I'm trying to keep them in the same position and just use my rear delts, if you understand what I'm saying there. Okay. A few more. Okay. Yeah. 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 Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Let's move on. I was about to try to go really heavy, like stack around level, or around the the stack level. But after doing like 2 feeler reps, really the only thing I was fucking flexing was my traps and my lats. Like obviously my rear delts were firing too, but if I just want to hit rear delts, I think lighter weight will be better off. I know that sounds crazy coming from me. Yeah. Okay. One more. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. All right. Let's do something else. There we go. Heavy bent over lateral raises should be perfect to finish with. Maybe only one, but I'm planning two. All right. Okay. That's enough. Yeah, rear delts are cooked. Let's move on to sides. I'm waiting for a side delt machine, but I don't want to wait that long. So let's just do some dumbbell laterals to start off. Right. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Either one more or the machine opens. Whichever one comes first. Alright, so this will be a little bit of a heavier set. That first set of dumbbells was with the 50s, but I can control that weight pretty slowly. I am going to move this weight around a little faster, but I know it's still going to wreck my side delts in a good way. So one like this, oh, maybe the next one will be half the weight and I'll go slower. Whether you go super heavy, or not even super heavy, but on the heavier side or the lighter side, as long as you go hard, it will be a good set. Okay. Okay. One thing about this machine, and I've said this before, but you can kind of give yourself assistance by doing a fucking lat spread if you're big enough. Like I can sit in here and without even activating my shoulders at all, like this is all just me spreading my lats. So, try not to do that. But I think one more. Let's go back to dumbbell. A little bit differently than the first set though. So, all lateral raises are the same in their basic execution. No matter if I do a machine or dumbbells or cable or single arm dumbbell, I'm still just going from here to here. So it will have a different strength curve. Like doing them on an inclined bench like this with one arm at a time, kind of leaned over, you will have more constant tension because there's never really a break at the bottom. Because when you stand up, it doesn't take any side delt to just hold dumbbells at your side. But when you bend over, it's constantly, requiring tension to hold them up. So apart from that fact that the strength curves are a little different, don't get too hung up on trying to have a really complicated side delt workout. I mean, I could sit here and I have just sat and just done all dumbbell lateral raises for a workout. And guess what? My shoulders were just as pumped, if not more, than they're going to be after today. So as long as you feel the targeted muscle, I don't think you need a massive amount of variability per workout. I think workout to workout, you should change it up. But I could have just sat here and done 8 sets of face pulls and then 8 sets of that machine lateral raise, and my shoulders would still be pumped to hell. But a few here. Okay. 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 Last set. I think I'll have a good time with something really heavy and then drop set to something lighter. Maybe like 60s to the 35s. I'll see. No matter what weight, I'll make sure it's a good one. Yeah, 60. Boy. No, that's enough. Starting to swing a little. Okay. All right. Let's see how they're looking. All done. Always. All right. I'm usually against a right out in the open pose down, but all the good spots are taken. And the locker room here is a locker room that actually gets used to, fucking change. The last thing I'd want is well, I wouldn't even want to record somebody if they're changing anyway. That's fucking nuts. So, it's not too busy. And this will only take a second. Yeah, come on. I had to actually kind of rip, like, the lats of, I guess you can't really tell, but it was a little bit tight, squeezing up on me. So I actually had to rip the tank a little. But, I mean, you tell me. You tell me how these shoulders look. Oh my goodness. It definitely feels good to have a fucking strong point. Ooh. Oh my goodness. Very nice. Okay, one more. Actually, what else even is there? Oh, maybe. Ooh. Very good. So again, I'm only going to get leaner from here. Because hypothetically, this is the highest body fat that I'm going to have. And it's only going to decrease throughout the cut. That's a good shot. Let's get in the car. We're done. Day one, nearly complete, of bringing myself back into fighting shape. Turning back into a lean, mean weightlifting machine instead of a slightly bigger and softer weightlifting machine. That's one thing which I do get some questions about. It's well, actually, maybe not so much, but I do see it. It's asking me and then asking just in general, like, how does your training change bulking versus dieting? You know, how are you going to change your sets? Am I going to change my frequency? Am I going to suddenly take a rest day every 2 days? What changes? Or what should I change for my training? Nothing. Really nothing. Like, not that much. One thing which I will do is when I diet down for quads, I do chill on squats because they're, I mean, for the same reason I don't do deadlifts. They're a very kind of just full body fatiguing movement. So the extra, and I'm not usually one to say this, but the extra like stress just from having that much weight on your body purely for its, you know, quad stimulating benefits. When I'm bulking up and I'm full of energy, I do like it. But when I'm dieting down, not as necessary. At least not heavy, that is. I'll still squat, but no more of this 5-plate mumbo jumbo. Probably going to be more in the 3-plate range later on in the workout. Maybe 4. Yeah, I don't know. I always say I'm not going to squat when I diet down, but then I still end up doing it. But when I'm bulking is when that's when I really push the weight squat-wise. But dieting, like I was saying on the way here, I'm just trying to stimulate, maintain the muscle that I already have and maintain its strength. So, you know, in what way should your training really differ? Whether you're bulking up, maintaining your main gaining, or trying to diet down, you still have to stimulate your fucking muscles, man. And the only thing that changes is, you know, how much energy you have at your disposal, which will decide what that stimulation does for you. When you're bulking up and you're full of excess calories, excess energy, then, you know, what's going to happen is after you train, and as long as you are eating enough and sleeping well, you're going to recover by way of muscle protein synthesis, aka hypertrophy, aka getting bigger. And then when you're dieting down, you know, you're still going to stimulate your fucking muscles, but not to the point that they're going to grow. They're just going to, you know, stay the same size while you lose body fat around the lean tissue you already have built up. And I've said this before, it is much easier to maintain muscle than it is to build it. But that's just not about the training, that's about the whole effort level of eating in a surplus, you know, hitting your meals consistently, you know, everything else that comes along with gaining weight. So, but what was I about to say? Fuck. Yeah, so I might not squat so heavy. And I'll probably be benching lighter and, you know, doing lighter push downs and curls. Not because I'm thinking in my mind, okay, I'm now dieting down. I need to lift lighter weights. No. I'm dieting down. I'm not going to have like 800 grams of carbs in my system fueling me up every day, keeping me totally fucking full. I'm going to be weaker. A little bit. You know, not a massive jump. It's not like my strength's going to be cut in half. But I will be a little bit weaker. So instead of being able to do, you know, fucking whatever amount of weight for 10 reps, I'll have to go a little bit lighter. But I'm still going to go as heavy as I can. So really, I think that's how your training should be for the most part. You know, do some hard, heavy sets, you know, as heavy as you can with reasonable form for, you know, 8, 12 reps or so. I'd say that's a pretty good definition of, you know, heavier sets. And then lighter squeezing sets, same as normal. You know, go hard, deal with the burn as much as you possibly can. Or if it's heavy enough, you know, take your sets to failure. My approach to training will not change now that I'm trying to diet down. Apart from the fact that I may be slightly weaker, so I might have to lift a little bit lighter. But that does not mean go light when you diet down. That's all I'm trying to say. So just because, you think in your mind, oh, I don't have so much, I'm not eating so many calories, I'm not so full of carbs, I can't go that hard. Come on, man. If anything, muscle stimulation is probably, it's equally important. But it's kind of the factor that's maintaining your strength. If I were to stop training or just train like really half-assed, like hardly trying at all, I would lose a fucking mountain of strength and probably fucking size by jumping straight into a deficit. But, by fucking stimulating my muscles just as hard as normal, they almost have an incentive to stay as big as they are, Like, this is not homeostasis for my body. Somewhere along the DNA of my genetic code, nowhere does it say, okay, you need to be 250 pounds constantly. That's not how it works. If I were to stop training, eating all my food, taking all my supplements, and my extracurricular supplements, guess what? I'm going to shrink down. So without the actual training itself and the diet, without the training itself, even when I get into a deficit with everything else going on, I'm still going to lose size. So whether you're bulking up or training hard, this is all I'm trying to say. Or no, whether you're bulking up or dieting down, your training shouldn't change. Go just as hard, try to get a gnarly pump and fatigue the muscle. You're good. So that's my point there. That is my point there. So if your leg day looks like, or if your chest day looks like 3 sets of incline dumbbell bench, 2 sets of machine press, a set of pec deck, and then 2 sets of cable flies, if that's what your bulking workout looks like, do the same thing when you diet down. It's still gonna fucking work. So that's my point there. But man, I'm already getting excited to be fucking lean. It's dude. Oof. Don't even get me started. That's gonna be freaking fun. So, like I was saying on the way to the gym, talking to my guys who are afraid of bulking up. Like, oh, I don't want to lose my abs. Of course I'm going to say like, oh, who gives a shit? Just start bulking up. Who cares if you put on a little bit of body fat? Look, I see the appeal. I can see the appeal of staying lean. All right, I love it. Who doesn't like looking in the mirror and having a full-on 6-pack? Plus, a little bit more, what's the word I'm thinking of? A little bit more on the vanity side. When you diet down, especially from being a little bit heavier, or having not even heavier, but even for me, just putting on a little more body fat, it does kind of change your facial structure a little bit. Maybe not structure, but, I've got, like, at the end of the cut, when I'm much leaner, my cheeks will be substantially, less fat. Not that they really are now, of course. But, for any looks maxers, which I think is that's a fucking silly word, just in general on its own. But, maybe don't spend so much time looking up the best way to mew. That's so fucking stupid. If you get leaner, guess what? You're going to get a little more jawline, man. So, a lot of positives and a lot of benefits to either side. Or a lot of pros and cons. You bulk up, you're big, you're strong, you get to eat pretty much whatever you want to a degree. You get to have really fucking crazy pumps because your muscles are literally just more full of fluids and carbs and glycogen, sarcoplasm, all sorts of lifter nonsense words. But you are going to be a little bit softer. And then, of course, when you're dieted down, diced, veiny, if you get to that level of leanness, you don't have to deal with eating so much fucking food all the time, which after a while does become a bit of a chore. And, for me, I do feel good being lean. Much lighter on my toes, a little more agile. I'm definitely not breathing so hard. That's one thing about really pushing a bulk is you're fucking heavy. And to an extent, you're kind of just more systemically inflamed a little bit. You know, like I'm sure I won't get so many Sam sounds like he's dying comments at the end of a dieting session because my cardio does improve. Like my resting heart rate does decrease when you're lean. So that's going to be my eventual end state. Like after, I'm not sure how many more years or how many more bulks and back and forth of the cuts and whatever until I get to the point where I feel like this is it, which I do think will happen. Look, I hate to burst somebody's bubble. I don't think I'm ever going to be like 330 pounds. That's, that might be a little far-fetched, but I will get considerably heavier than I am now. But there will be a limit. I do believe that I'm going to have an end state where I say, this is nice. Let's just stay here for a while. Or, and this is kind of an end game kind of thing for anybody that's actually kind of in the bodybuilding scene. Or not scene, what am I even saying? Anybody who lifts for a substantial period of time and is making legit gains, year to year, though you may not gain size as rapidly, like it is kind of a diminishing return situation. But year to year, even though you stay pretty close to the same size, like you may only make marginal weight gains, your physique will kind of continue to develop in a little bit more of like a defined, just, more cut up kind of way. I mean, look at, I don't want to glaze, of course, but like look at Chris Bumstead year to year to year on stage at all the Olympia shows. Like of course it's a little bit different because each day he's not in the exact same like shape. Like one day at one show he may be holding a little bit more water, just very slightly. But if you compare these shots, like especially when he's doing the same pose, like he's the same guy. He looks very similar, right? But even though he hasn't necessarily made massive size gains, he does gradually get a more and more defined shape. And that goes for, I'll insert any, bodybuilder over the course of years. He's just the first one to come to mind. So even though eventually I may say, okay, a lean, because I think on this cut I'll probably be a lean, or like a walking around lean, probably mid 230s. Like me at 235, just walking around like a normal dude during this diet, like not water cutting or anything, I will be pretty lean. So I think, I don't know, a lean 245, like a real lean 245. That's probably getting close to where I want to end up. But I'm also not totally sure. I'll have to see when I get there. So as much as I do make it about size, because right now, that's my fucking goal. I don't need to focus so much on, I want to get more feathering in my triceps. Right now, I want bigger triceps. And then over the course of time, that stuff will kind of show up. Everybody's heard the term muscle maturity thrown around. But, yeah. So if you're curious, that's kind of where my head's at. There will be much more size improvements, but there will be an end state. And then somewhere in between now and then will be some bodybuilding shows. I'm sure a few of you would love to see me oiled up in a pair of posing trunks. One day with a full-on spray tan as well. The only thing I'm curious about is whether or not I'm gonna get like a fancy haircut or just a walk out there with the scruffy look. I guess we'll see. But man, I gotta figure out what to do with my time. I know once I go back to school I'm gonna be busy with all that stuff. Well, actually that's tomorrow, so what am I even saying here? But I do notice when I diet down, and this is another positive for me for dieting, is I've got a lot more time on my hands. Because I'm not so busy getting food, thinking about how I need to be at my house at a certain time so I can get another meal in. Like, I'm not so concerned, man. You know, I'll probably just watch a bunch of TV shows or something. I'm watching Legend of Korra right now. Me and all my siblings, we watched the first Avatar show when we were kids. Like, I don't know how old I was. And that one was pretty good, but for whatever reason, I never watched this kind of spin-offy sequel. I'm glad I waited, though. Pretty good. Pretty good show. A little kiddish, but still fun. So, now I just get to go home, pack all my shit, then head back to the college rec center. So, whether you're bulking up or cutting down, stick with it, man. Make some real progress. In either case, make sure you're changing the scale. Of course, if you're bulking, you want that scale to go up week to week, and if you're dieting down, you better make sure the scale goes down week to week. And in either case, if that is not the case, then you've got a problem, and you need to address it quick. Because I hear it all the time, man. I hear it all the time. I'm bulking hard, but I can't gain weight. Sounds like you're gaining, or you're just maintaining hard, you know? And same thing if you think you're dieting down, but you also can't lose weight. You know, are you the physically impossible, thermodynamically, what am I trying to say here? Are you the one person in the whole world whose body does not rely on thermodynamics? If so, then you need to submit yourself to Yale to be studied. But more likely than not, the reason you're not losing body fat is because you're not really in a calorie deficit. And it's kind of mean to say it that bluntly, but it's really true, you know? Like, fuck. Once you get it, if you haven't already, once you start tracking your macros and you kind of understand the fact that, okay, this food is going to have an effect on my body, and I know what it's going to do if I eat a certain quantity. You know, once you start to really understand it, it's not going to be so daunting, and it's going to be easier for you to kind of get a hold of. I really do not like the argument when people say tracking your macros is an eating disorder. Now look, some people do take it too far, of course. It's the same with anything in life. But the majority of people would certainly improve their diets, or at least their calorie intake, if they had a firm grasp on it. You know, I feel like the same people who say that live on mac and cheese and Starbucks coffee. Is that better? Who's to say? Who's to say? But I think that's all I got. I think that is all I got. 9 out of 10 Sams recommend that you track your macros. Actually, scratch that. 10 out of 10. Right? Look up some kind of dieting app. Ask your buddy who's into it. I'm sure everyone knows someone who tracks their macros at least a little, and that can kind of give you just a nudge in the right direction. I mean, there's got to be 1,000 hours or 1,000,000 hours of people talking about this on YouTube or fucking Instagram shorts. Or no, Instagram reels. What am I saying here? So, worth looking into. That's all I'll say there. But, yeah, a few more weeks. Should start to look extra lean. And then, I'd say in about 2 weeks, maybe even just a week, I'm going to start getting pretty fucking hungry. So I'm going to cap the calories off at about 2,750. About 2,750 calories per day. And maybe I'll increase it, maybe I'll decrease it. I don't want to be in a massively steep deficit, but I do want to be in a deficit that's enough for me to actually lose body fat. If I were to just eat at maintenance, then I'm not going to fucking get leaner at all, just stay in the same place. But right now that I've just switched from bulking to dieting, I am not very hungry. It will not be a challenge for me this first week to stay under that calorie limit. Because, in a sense, just to really simplify the situation, my body is telling me, Sam, you don't need to eat any more food. You don't need to eat those 2 packs of ramen right now. We're just not hungry for it. But after a little bit of time has passed, and I'm not so full of carbs, I'm a little more depleted, that's kind of going to trigger my insides to say, you got to start grubbing, man. You got to start grubbing. Have a few scoops of ice cream out of the freezer. And it's up to you, the lifter, to have the presence of mind and the discipline to say, actually, I don't think I should eat an entire quart of ice cream right now. I'm trying to lose body fat. I think it would be better if I didn't do that. Maybe just drink a Sprite Zero or something. So, whether or not that's extremely challenging or only slightly challenging for you, just know it will have benefits. So, I feel like I've been stretching out this like final sentence for like 20 minutes. But tomorrow is... I don't actually know what tomorrow is lift-wise. Holy shit. But we'll find out. We will most certainly find out. So, I will see you then.